Rivalries can be very positive. That's a good thing. But holding a grudge against someone, something else for a long period of time, this is something that can be debilitating for a lot of people in our society right now. And I guess the question is, how does it come to that point? And how do you, this is the hard part, how do you let go of a grudge? Well, let's talk to the good doctor about that today. Dr. John Braccio with Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing. drjohnb.com for the podcast, of course. Good morning, sir. No grudge to hold with you ever. Happy to have you. Happy to have you here. Thank goodness. I hope you feel likewise.
No grudges with you, Dave, after many, many years.
Good.
Let's begin by saying a grudge is maintaining anger, resentment, hurt, sadness, and or bitterness if someone is believed to have wronged you. This can range from really something as small as a perceived negative look to a major betrayal. And most persons, even if they really don't want to admit it or feel their grudge is legitimate and then not a grudge, they have them at one time or another in their lives. So it's I think a key thing to really look at is even if people really aren't aware of it or don't acknowledge it or just kind of ignore it, it's important to know that people have grudges. In fact, many people have them burned at them and can actually be with them most of their lives. So if we have grudges and they become time-consuming and they cause you to really have a lot of pathological anger, then clearly a need to examine yourself and find a way to eliminate them because, anger is often a component of a grudge and it can be really far more destructive to the person who has it. It's like taking a hammer, hitting yourself because you're mad at someone else. And obviously, the person who's getting hit with a hammer is getting hurt and not the person they're mad at. So it's really
I've heard that a different Doc. I've heard that a different way before. It's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. I mean, same kind of a thing. It's the same basic mindset. Do you deal with a lot of clients who, and patients of yours, whether they've got this issue, where long-standing grudges and perceived or real grievances are kind of at the heart and holding them kind of in shackles every day?
Well, Dave, many people, because remember, we don't necessarily use the word grudge. We don't think about it, but that's what they are. They're people that resent brothers, sisters, parents, neighbors, coworkers. And so often it's like an acid. It eats away at the person. And often it impacts negatively on their relationships with others because if you have a group of grudges against people that you encounter or have encountered, it certainly impacts on your own mental health. And then that can lead to you doubting other people, questioning them, or even getting in arguments when they don't agree with you, where they just say, look, let it go. I mean, let's not ruin the present and the future because we're upset about something that happened maybe many, many years ago. So it is critical to let things go. That doesn't mean that you forget, and it doesn't mean that in your forgiveness, you're really kind of allowing yourself the opportunity to move forward and not let another person control aspects of your life. Because often people don't apologize, often they're not aware of it, and often we never say anything to the person, which is really another very negative thing, because a person could cause you a hurt and they're not even aware of it. So it's, I think, pretty critical to deal with issues when they come up or let them go and just move on in life.
What about when other people do know what they've done, and then maybe they're not interested, they don't care, maybe there was a very bad thing that happened, and yet you're focusing so much of your time on it, you may not have a relationship with that person anymore, or maybe it's just cursory, but you're still focused on it. It would seem that's harder to let go. How do you do it then? That's trickier, isn't it? Or is it?
I think it is trickier, particularly if it's someone we interact with or someone we have to see, like a family member. It's really just best to let things go. We can have minimal contact, But if we do have to have contact, we're just best to be cordial. Just realize that it's like an acid eating at you, and again, the person may very well not apologize. And there's also the possibility that you're interpreting things wrong too, because people also can misinterpret the motives of someone else, and sometimes, regardless of even if it's explained to them, they just don't believe it. They'll say, "Well, the person should have known anyway." So, yeah, I think in life we're just best to go through it. We stay away from toxic people as best we can, but from people that may have just slighted us or done something that we consider wrong, or call it what you will, we're just best to forgive is a word I use, but I really use it more forgive yourself, because if someone's wronged you and they won't admit it and they kind of have a cavalier attitude in life, you're really forgiving yourself. You're kind of saying, I'm going to let this go. I'm not going to allow it to give me a hard time, and I'm not going to allow another person to be controlling my emotions and feelings. And you can even, if it's really quite a slight or quite a wrong, I think you can realize that person really has to live with that. And even if they're really not aware of it now, it'll hit them along the road of life. And even if it doesn't, you're the better person and the happier person, and the one who's going to have better relationships with yourself and with others by just letting it go.
And, Doc, for people who hold on to stuff and they think this is the worst thing in the world, I mean, honestly, there may be something coming around the corner that's going to make this look like nothing. You're going to need all the brain power, emotional power you have to deal with what's coming in your life, as opposed to what's all in the rearview mirror, which is kind of like collecting cans while you're driving at the same time, kind of going down the road. I mean, it's not, at some point you're going to be kind of overwhelmed with it. And like you say, you've got to let some things go. Just let them go. Because you've got other things coming at you from the front, right? Life goes on.
That's really
more
true.
challenges.
And when people have this anger or this frustration or this grudge, and they really can't let it go, and often it's even adults that can be, I worked with a person, I talked to a person, I should say, that was 80, still mad at her mother when she was 5, 6, 7 years old. And I'm saying, boy, when are you going to let that go? That's kind of an extreme. But again, when you find out what people have grudge and anger, well, often it's for things that are so long ago. They're in their deep, distant past, and they've been carrying it with them. And again, I realize there are things like sexual abuse or physical abuse. People that have done, and I'm not trying to minimize what people have done, and I'm not saying, well, just let everything go. I'm just saying, for your own sake, don't let somebody who did something wrong to you destroy your present, because you won't have a future. So we really have to move on for ourselves, for kept allowing ourselves to have a peaceful, happy existence, and holding grudges and being angry and et cetera, et cetera. It just makes the person really very difficult for themselves and others, and also eventually takes a toll on them physically, in terms of the heart system, in terms of the brain, call it what you will, all the things that can happen to you if you're angry, frustrated, have a negative view of life. Those are not a way to lead a happy life or have a good physical life. We talk to people with headaches, people that just can't sleep, people that have things on their mind all the time, and a lot of that comes from grudges and anger. And hey, enjoy life, with a song in my heart. I mean, just kind of move forward as best you can. And again, someone can say, well, you don't know what happened to me. I'm not trying to minimize what happens to a person. I'm simply saying, in order to live in the present and have a good future, we can't allow the past to ruin us now. We have to try to let things go and forgive ourselves in a way. Even if we forgive others, I understand that, but we're really forgiving ourselves from anger and frustration, and just allowing ourselves to move on and have a peaceful and happy life as best we can.
Not letting yesterday get in the way of tomorrow. It's hard. It's definitely difficult, but as the doc says, it is worthwhile. Don't let grudges take over your life, slights, real or perceived. Let them have their proper place and let them go. And it's again, it can be for many, even if they don't use that word grudge. Easier said than done. The Good Doctor can be found with the podcast at Dr. John B. as in Braccio, .com. That's the place to go. All of the podcasts are there 24/7, 365 for you. Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. Will the Spartans at least take one of two against Michigan? What's your prediction?
Well, I'm going to tell you that if they play the way they played but not the last game, the 2 games before, I give them a hope. Okay, I give them a hope. If they play like they just played, but again, they've been playing so many games, playing hard.
Oh, they have. Yep.
It's hard when you're coming back and trying to do the best you can. But if anyone could do it, it would be Izzo, and I certainly wish them the best. I always say, go green. How does that
and
sound?
go white. And they'll get it started tonight over at Breslin. Our good friend, the Good Doctor, Dr. John Braccio. Take care. Stay safe, all right?
Same to you, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. 1320, Morning Wake Up. We're back. WILS.